Sean, you've done a bit of research. You've gone through your rookies, and you've sort of listed a few. I think we've got 12 here that we're going to talk about.
12 that I thought was interesting to pull out that had some good conversation for fantasy, because we're deep into fantasy land now as we lead into the preseason, as you were saying. A lot of guys getting, July is your prep for...
Is your prep.
You prep for your draft, and in August you watch your preseason, kind of confirm what you've been thinking about, and then hopefully you do your draft towards the end of preseason. And I feel sorry for all those that do it early and then get...
No, I don't feel sorry for you. Do it after the last preseason game, or at least that weekend, at least the last weekend, because you see it every year. It's tragic, but there are season-ending injuries, or there are injuries where guys are going to miss 6-8 weeks that happen in the preseason. Don't be a nuffy. Have your draft in or after the last preseason game has been played. Anyways... your number one rookie to watch. It's probably the consensus number one as well.
So I think the caveat there is he is the consensus number one, but I also think the value is not there.
We are talking about Breece Hall.
So, yes, we're talking about New York Jets running back Hall, who is going very high. His average draft position in probably the third or fourth round. So when I say that, he's going in the 30s for a 10-team league. That's about third or fourth round. To me... I've seen as high as the 7th RBO taken. I think 20th is his average. But even still, to me, that's all too high. I think, and I kind of don't understand why. I get people of maybe saying that, hey, he's going to take that job and he's going to have 1,200 yards and be, killer, and he's going to be a core part of your roster. But on that team, Michael Carter's still there, and they've got Coleman as well. They both had, Coleman was taking carries for Carter last year, and Carter is his second year, and also was very good last year on a team that has a coaching staff that likes to share the load. I just don't see the potential for that high kind of, touches that he's going to need to repay you for a third or fourth round in the, a 30th guy taken in that list. So I'd have to say, to me, that seems too high. He needs to move down a couple of rounds, probably into those 50s, 60s, where you're not relying on him to be, one of your two starting running backs week in, week out. I just don't think he's worth that kind of value, noting where the competition that he's got on that team. And that team has a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, a lot of young players. So it's very hard to kind of pick a guy that has clear air to come in and start straight away at a running back position as a rookie. So a lot of risk there, not a lot of reward.
I agree with everything you're saying. I'm surprised that he's up there with consensus number one for all rookies. The first point being, it's hard for a rookie running back to go into the NFL and get bulk carries and bulk touchdown. That's going to be the issue as well. And at the New York Jets, how many touchdowns are they going to be scoring? Do you know what I mean? You don't see him going out there and having 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns.
And yes, he's got good, he was a good receiver. He can catch the ball. But then Carter was doing the same thing last year. They're going to be sharing that load. So I just don't see it. He's not in a situation like CEH was.
And again, but he was underwhelming as well. Everyone had him projected going as a top 10 running back.
Probably too high. And then, only got about 800 rushing yards that rookie year. It cost a bunch of... They hit the wall, etc. But he had no one in that backfield as a comparison. The situation just isn't there for me for Hall. So I'd avoid until he drops past the 50 range, and you can get him there as a, maybe he's your first running back as a potential flex, a guy that you could more step in than have to start week in, week out.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to agree with you 100% here. I wouldn't be confident going into a fantasy season with Breece Hall being my RB1.
Yep.
Possibly as an RB2 or as a flex.
Yeah.
Yep. Drake London
then is the next highest rated. As a rookie, probably one of the top wide receivers just because of the situation, because they've got no one. Pitts is the only other option very much there as a seeing threat. In the passing game, of course, you got Patterson, who does it all. But that's, as a wide receiver, he's in that room for the Falcons. He's all that they have available there. The biggest issue is probably going to be quarterback play, because it's not Matt Ryan throwing the ball anymore. It is Mariota, who did all right for the Raiders, but also maybe not going to have the most passing attempts. Does a little bit with his legs, but he's not a Lamar Jackson in any way, shape, or form.
No,
but he's a step down. Like he's a tier 3 kind of quarterback. So you're taking a risk there, but he has the size. He's going to get a lot of red zone looks. And in the 90s as an average draft position, your 9th round, where it's a guy that can potentially sit on your bench for a little while, play in the flex depending on the matchups, etc. That's not a bad way to draft it. Because he could score 10 touchdowns this year.
He's going to have to be their wide receiver 1.
Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of forced in that position, and I think he's more of a good stash as well for those in the keeper league. Because Mariota's probably not their long-time quarterback. We'll have to see what they do next year, but there might be a completely different situation there where then London takes a bump with a new quarterback. So it's kind of guy, yes. Maybe you can play him a little bit early, play him more matchups, but at least you've got him on your bench and you can pick and choose and hopefully get like that mid-season bump where maybe he catches on and get some good chemistry with Mariota. One of those ones, confirm in the preseason, see what that looks like.
These are the other options in the wide receiver room for the Atlanta Falcons. Auden Tate, Olamide Zacchaeus, and Brian Edwards. Not exactly household names.
Yeah, and Zacchaeus is going to be getting some raps
he
as well.
Got a little bit last year in the Ridley break. But yeah, it's going to be. He's going to have to swim in the NFL. It's sink or swim this league, and he's going to have to swim.
Yeah, and the Falcons have a few kind of tasty options potentially because of their just lack of talent in the skill positions. Yeah. It's very much unknown. One guy might step up and take it all, or maybe they play a bit of team ball, but you can't be certain on any of it.
Feel for Kyle Pitts as well. A little bit, losing Matt Ryan, the highest drafted tight end ever. Hopefully, it doesn't hurt his career too much. Yeah,
as well. Yeah. So, for a guy that's a tight end, semi-playing wide receiver as well, then having being double teamed, it's not great for him.
The third rookie here that we're talking about is Treylon Burks. He is over at the Tennessee Titans, who they traded away AJ Brown. Does he get the same looks as AJ, or is Bobby Trees going to be their wide receiver 1?
That's the question, and from our draft special how full I was for Burks throughout that. So I really like him in this team. And, probably the difference with London is he's got Ryan Tannehill as a confirmed kind of quarterback option. But you got to remember Henry's back in that team. They're probably going to run fuckload more, which did hurt both AJ Brown, like their numbers. They had one true wide receiver, and with Woods there, does that mean there's shared load? He's not going to get as many opportunities. It'll be interesting to see. But I will say if Willis gets a run at all, that it all goes out the window, and I'd say park anything Tennessee Titans related, except for Henry. He'll get 4,000 touches a game if that's the case, if they go the rookie. I think they'll stick with Tannehill, at least as long as they're doing well, they'll stick with Tannehill. As long as if it starts turning bad, then they'll have to rejig and do something else. But I think I like Burks, in that 90 to 100 round range for an average draft position. I like him a little bit more than London with the QB situation. Another guy that's stash, see what happens mid-season, and then hopefully pull him off the bench and into your starting lineup.
And I agree with Tannehill. The game plan with Tannehill has been feed Henry and don't turn the ball over, and it's worked pretty well for Tennessee recently. I'd be surprised if we see Malik Willis outside of injury early on, but who knows? And they might try to use him sort of as a sort of gadget man as well, whereas Tannehill's their QB1, but then they get Malik in there, on design runs or option plays. And
I think all that blends nicely for Burks because he's kind of got more gritty size than Woods does. Like Woods is an elite boy, route runner and a wide receiver, whereas Burks I think could do it all for you really. So he's going to be involved in a lot of situations. So he's definitely going to get a lot of playing time. It's just what's his target share going to look like? How much touches is he going to get? Time will tell.
The fourth fantasy rookie here that we're looking at is Kenny Walker. He is at Seattle now. You think maybe similar similar to Breece Hall?
Yeah, he's getting a lot of reps. His average draft position is better. But I think everyone still forgets that Penny's still there. And Penny, I think, had the best last 6 weeks of the year.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was like
He lit it up.
He lit it up. They do have Chris Carlton coming back on a team that likes to run the ball. So they're definitely going to run. He's going to get a lot of touches. But he's also, on a bad team with unknown quarterback potential, probably going to be playing from behind with arguably one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I question it in the 90s. It's more of an acceptable risk than I think Hall was. But also it's not a guy I'd be looking for anything impressive early. If anything, I think Penny is probably the favourite in that locker room to take that ball on. So, I'd probably leaving Walker and looking at him late.
And obviously, we'll have more of an indication as to who's going to be the RB1 after these preseason games. But for me, I think I like Hall better than Kenny Walker in that. Like you say, plenty of mouths to feed there with Rashad Penny and Chris Carson, and just game situation. I don't see the Seahawks being a very good team this year. You don't really get running backs, scoring big, big fantasy. Games in games where they have to chase. The only thing is he a better receiving option perhaps than the other two? In a PPR league, they're behind in games. Is he going to get a few dump offs? But it'd be interesting to see what happens in the preseason.
And he definitely has that, so it's all potential. But I think it's weighing up the risk, and depending what the options are, like where he is in the 90s as a potential 9th round, mid to late tier pick, that's a good place to pick rookies anyway and just stash them. So, but there's probably 2 other guys on that list that maybe have a better situation than him and potentially go later. So we'll talk about those in a minute.
The next bloke we're talking about is Jameson Williams. He's wide receiver at Detroit. Killed it in college ball, but obviously coming off it's ACL Rico, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And James, do you have any
Yeah.
recent news on where he is injury-wise?
No, not recent. I'm just reading it up now.
We probably won't get much more until they get into training camp for preseason.
I think that'll be it, whether he's able to show up for training camp.
Yeah, we knew he'd been training before the draft, and it's been probably close to 6 months since the injury. So most likely he'll start on the PUP, the PUP, to listen, which means he'll miss the first 8 games, I think, is the requirement for that.
Is it 8 on the PUP list? Wow.
Yeah. But we'll have to see if he can avoid that or not. But my thinking there is I do really like him. People are really high on St. Brown because he got all the targets last year.
Yeah, late in the year especially.
Exactly. And, they do have Goff there, an established quarterback. So they've got a good option there. Goff's probably not a top 10 QB, but he's a second tier. He's in that middle there, and he can definitely get the job done and can throw the football. So I think the idea is, can Williams get healthy? Can he get because I think as soon as he gets healthy, he's going to take a large portion of this target share very, very quickly.
Based on pure talent, arguably the most talented receiver in this draft class.
Yeah, and St. Brown got 100 plus targets easily. I think he could definitely sneak into stealing some of those from him. So he's one of those guys, take late and look for that bump in that mid-season if you want to stash and hold on to him. Or if no one picks him, watch him and watch the health. Because when he comes on, I think he's definitely going to do a job for you there. And I think he's in the 150s as an average. So, right towards the end of your draft, that's a good one just to add, especially for a keeper ad.
I was hoping, you were going to say it.
Yeah.
Keeper league. If you're in a keeper league, Jameson, dynasty leagues, Jameson Williams is definitely one to have an eye on. If you want immediate impact, obviously him being on most likely being on the PUP list, he's not the guy to go for. But if you're in one of those longer leagues, definitely someone to keep an eye on. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the New York Jets. Thoughts?
Yeah, so probably following on that same New York Jets conversation, very young team, lots of mouth to feed. I did like Elijah Moore, very much. Last year they do have Corey Davis there as well. So they've got established options. Plus they've got the 2 to 3 running backs that we mentioned as well. They've got a lot of talent. young talent on this team. So it'll be interesting to see how that defines out into market share of the targets within that. So I like Wilson, but I also hesitant. I like Moore probably more. I think Moore is going slightly behind Wilson from memory in average draft position. But also you got to remember Zach Wilson is going to be the quarterback and he really needs to take a second-year leap for any of these guys to be worthwhile. If anything, there's too many mouths to feed in the side receiver's room with probably not enough good quarterback play to feed both of them. He's in the 120s. It's probably still okay, 12th round. That's probably good, but I just like more as an established option there as a guy that's probably going to get the target share early. It's again, wait and see. None of these guys on this list like really scream out starters straight away.
Yeah.
They're more like stash them, pick them up later, and see what happens.
Probably my favourite one to watch in this rookie list, the Green Bay Packers, Christian Watson. Now, obviously, a lot of media coverage around the departure of Devontae Adams. Yep. Who becomes the wide receiver 1 at Green Bay?
Yeah, and that's the big question because there's a lot of veterans there, and what have they got?
Lazard, Cobb,
etc.
Watkins, Amari Rogers, who they drafted second round last year.
Yeah, and Watkins, he's I think on his 6th team of underperforming to what people are expecting him to be. So, as your mongrels probably can attest to.
Yeah. 2 years where I've had Sammy Watkins, rocks or diamonds, he'll give you a 40 game, 40-point game here and there,
and then a month of nothing.
Exactly.
So Watson is probably the most talented in that room, and I guess the question is going to be chemistry because the veterans will start ahead of him. That I think is going to be a definite. It's just he's one of those ones. Preseason. Watch what he does. See if he's got that connection with Rodgers, and see potential for again another one of those guys mid-season bump that can gets in there, can take over that probably that second wide receiver role, maybe that deep threat role that MVS had last year, and could probably score you touchdowns because he's got the frame, he's got the size to be a red zone threat. And another guy in the 160s, late average draft position, another great stash to have there. Of the wide receiver stash, I do really like Watson towards the end.
Yep.
Of your draft.
I don't know if it's just Packers bias from myself, but I probably would have him just behind Treylon Burks in terms of rookie wide receivers. Obviously, we spoke about the injury concerns around Jameson Williams and the mouths to feed at the New York Jets. I'd probably have him as the second best rookie receiver here.
Preseason is going to be a very big tell for him because he did, of course, come out of North Dakota State, like another school that's not well known, whereas the other guys played in bigger known schools, bigger competition. So, it is a big step up for him, and preseason will tell whether he's going to be up for it or not. And with Aaron Rodgers slinging him the ball, best of the quarterback situation, that's the best one to be in. So he's a nice stash for a guy that you're hoping to be a wide receiver too, and you never know, maybe he can take a big leap very quickly.
Boy, North Dakota State, bro. Carson Wentz and Trey Lance, they're a big time school these days.
Yes.
Allegedly,
yes, yes. They, they've got talent that comes out of them, but they've dominated that league for so long.
Yeah,
like they're undefeated for like 3 years running or some shit.
Yeah, really. Yeah, go Bisons.
Anyway,
Bisons or Bison?
Bison.
Multiple Bison. I think multiple Bison.
And then the next 4 ended up being my interesting running backs there. So. Was it Damon Pierce?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Damon Pierce, running back for Houston.
So he's got a bit of a clearer path to playing time than some of the others do because they just got a whole bunch of nothing at the Texans. They've got Burkhead and they've got Mack there, Marlon Mack, but they're not they're retreads, they're not established options.
Yeah, exactly.
And Lovie Smith, I believe, is their head coach there, so he's going to love to run the ball.
Especially with Davis Mills at the helm.
So, yeah, he could very quickly find himself in a starting role there with not many other guys trying to steal from him either. So, he could very easily take that job and run with it going forward. Which, for a guy getting picked in the 140s, late, very rounds, that's off the list. Like, that's an excellent one to pick up and stash. for those guys looking for, maybe you've gone the zero RB strategy, or you're looking for an RB to add later to potentially, keep or be a rookie sensation. Like he's one that you can see a direct path to potentially starting there. So I do really like him. He's got good size for the position. So drafted late, I think it was a fourth round from memory, fourth or fifth round. But I guess the biggest concern with the RBs in this rookie class is it wasn't a great rookie class for draft class for running backs this year. So that, that's a caveat, I guess, for a lot of them. And another reason, probably down Hall a little bit is that, it wasn't the best class for running backs this year.
Another running back to talk of, the man that found our country down here, down under, James Cook.
Still kicking around.
Namesake at least. He's going to be at Buffalo. What do we think here? Maybe a weaker running back room, maybe a favourable place to end up for him?
Same thing. Like brother Dalvin was gifted with more size. James probably will get the scat back tag, being a little bit of the skinnier, but he is also an electric talent. I think the big change is, like you said, suspect running back room that has under-delivered. But in that team, the Buffalo team, they love... Well, their best running back is the quarterback in Josh Allen.
Yeah, definitely in terms of touchdowns.
And they do like to play 4 wide. So I think he could have a lot of potential playing time as the running back that'll catch a fuckload of balls. He can help do the play action with Allen there, and they can. I think he just fits that offensive team so well. So I think that's probably where you could see him getting a lot of playing time and a lot of ball early. So another guy that will, I think, what's he going? In the hundreds. So he's going a little bit earlier than the others, but still mid-tier. But, on a good team, good quarterback situation, can catch the ball and probably going to, I think on that depth chart, he's already second. And he'll play a lot on that team. He'll get a lot of game time because of the system that they run.
Elite speed as well. Ran a 4.42. So definitely that will bode well for him as being the scat back, the receiving back for the Buffalo Bills. Tyler Algiere, is that how you say it? Algiere?
Better attempt than I would have made.
Atlanta. That's why I had a crack. What's your read on this guy?
If you read anything rookies, he's basically the top of the list for breakouts, sleeper ones, purely because on the Falcons, like we talked about, devoid of skill of talent. I think they could be a hot favourite for being a top 5, if not the first pick in next year's draft, because I think everyone under them, take like the Jets, the Jags, etc., have done enough to improve, whereas I think they've taken a step backwards. Big thing, no Mike Davis. So no established running back except for Patterson, who you didn't think was a running back, then became one.
Yeah, and I had to eat my words week in and week out. They did pick up Damian Williams from Kansas City.
Yes. So besides that, there's not a real established there, and it's whether Patterson can take the complete load for the entire year is the question. A lot of people going with the risk that probably not. So the reward is, Pierce has the size as a full-time workhorse running back. I think he's 5'11", 220-ish. So he's got the size to be...
He's nuggety,
yeah. So Tyler could definitely step into there and do a job for them, and is probably going to get touches early. So have to see. And preseason.
Exactly. See how they use him.
Yeah, 150 average draft position, another one of those rookies. They're getting stuck there, and I think that's perfect for a guy that, good time to take a risk on him, see what he can be, whether he'll steal that position, whether Patterson gets injured with that workload, who knows.
Rashad White, the last running back that we'll be talking about, the last rookie running back in this list, over at Tampa Bay, Monks' team. Obviously won't be getting the starting job because they've got Lenny Fournette, but they did lose, they traded away Rojo.
Yeah, Ronald Jones, which I think's the big reason from him being here, because Fournette's getting like RB10 second round. I think average of like 17 is an average draft, but very high. For a guy that's had 2,000 rushing yard seasons, and alternates between that with missing most of the season and being injured. So I think one thing is I'd be very risk avoid Fournette early in the draft. Let someone else make that risk and have him as an RB1 or 2. And probably target White as a guy that, if that does happen, is going to probably step straight in as the starter there for Tampa Bay. And again, great quarterback situation. They've got skill positions, got a good offensive line. Like, he's a good one to pick up and stash, definitely. And he's in the 160s, has a kind of a clear story to potential playing time. I guess it will depend on if Fournette and do I see Fournette getting 20 carries a game for the 17 games and lasting that long? Probably not. So he's definitely going to get playing time early and could potentially be the fill-in if any injuries do happen to Fournette there.
The last rookie that we're going to mention, we have to talk about a quarterback, and the top quarterback taken in the 2022 NFL draft was Kenny Pickett. Obviously, quarterbacks, unless you're in a 2-quarterback lead, which is pretty unusual, you've kind of got your top 10, 12 guys that you look at, and then anyone outside of that, you probably disregard. Is Kenny Pickett worth looking at as a top 10 to 12 guy?
Yeah, but we're not going to have Lamar Jackson rookie season now.
No,
I don't think. Yep. And I'm happy to eat my words here, but it was a down rookie class. He's arguably behind the worst offensive line in the NFL. They're completely retooling it. They've got 2 guards, and that's about it. He's also got to win the job too.
Well, that's right. There's no guarantee that he starts with Trubisky there and Mason Rudolph.
There's no real guarantee for the rookie quarterbacks. I'd avoid this rookie quarterback class. Focus on the running backs and wide receivers mentioned above.
So, take-home messages. Who did we like? We kind of liked Drake London. We kind of like Burks. We kind of like Watson, the receivers.
Yes, Watson, yep. And then probably...
For running backs, who do you like the most?
Probably like Pierce, Cook, and what was the last one? Algiere.
Yeah.
I
doubt either of us are saying that, right?
Yeah. Tyler, we prefer those 3 as late stashes for potential direct playing time capability.